Happy to be here today. I usually make two-dimensional artwork. Historically, I've made a lot of paintings, photographs, prints, and mixed media works on paper and canvas. But a few years ago, I started making sculptures out of paper, and I would coat the paper in many, many layers of graphite to the point that it looked like metal, and I would fold it into these playful geometric shapes. And after making more and more of these paper sculptures, I became really curious and wanted to know what they would look like if they're made out of metal and if they're in a public space. And I'm really grateful to the City of West Palm for commissioning this project because I was able to experiment with a new material. Learning how to work in 3 dimensions was really surprising. There's more of a sense of movement. When I'm making the work, I move more around the piece, and I invite the viewer to do the same as well. I like that you can experience it so many different ways depending on where you're standing and what your perspective is. And I like to think about that. And the materiality is really different too. Like every facet of these sculptures, like every surface, is a little bit different. I used a heat patina, which is just like a really hot fire onto the steel to create this iridescent effect, which was also really surprising to me because I hadn't used metal before. I hope that they will feel sort of surprised and that they'll respond to that playfulness that's in the sculptures and sort of feel playful themselves. I hope that they'll start to see their environment a little bit differently too and think about how, like, when we change one thing, how that changes everything. I really like that these sculptures are surrounded by oak trees, which I love a lot, and also that they're installed here in a playground where kids will see them. So I'm hoping that kids seeing and living with art every day, like when they can come to this public space. I like that, this art is for a wider audience. It's not in a gallery or a museum, which, that's great too, but I like that this is for anyone, for whoever happens to come to this playground. They can sort of grow up with it. These columns were already here, these columns, but they were a different color. So I chose the blue to reflect the sort of the sky and also the architecture that's around and the community. I wanted it to feel very vibrant. And then in working with steel, which is obviously like a metallic silver sort of color, I wanted to bring this iridescent rainbow that brings to mind rainbows that we see in our skies all of the time, or iridescence like on butterfly wings, which we also see here. I love that we have so many different colors represented here. So in South Florida, it's really vibrant in the flora and fauna and community. So I wanted to bring that in playfully too. I would be curious to know, in a year from now, what people think of them. And, material-wise, I've never worked with metal, so I'm curious to see how they will evolve. Like if they'll look anything like this, in 2 years. I'm sure the structure will be the same, but the surface will evolve. So I'm curious to see. It's sort of an experiment. Which I'm grateful to have the ability to experiment in that way. I look forward to working in public art more. I really like how democratic it is. Like I was saying before, I really love that it's for everybody, for the community. Now that I've done 3 public art projects, I'm hoping to do maybe even larger projects. So now that I've experimented with a few different new materials, I'm hoping to increase in size. And all of the public art I've been doing has been local, which I really love, but I think it could open up to other places as well. Thank you so much, Sibile, for everything, for believing in me, for the opportunity. With me and Ates, we really loved working on this project together, and I'm excited to hopefully work together again in the future.